my paranormal people. This week I'm doing a video on the Conjure chest. Now, whether I believe it was actually a cursed item or object, I'll let you know at the end of the video. So sit back and enjoy. The story of the Conjure chest comes from antebellum Kentucky. Over 150 years ago, a slave owner by the name of Jacob Cooley had a large plantation. On this plantation, he kept slaves. One of the slaves, named Hosea, was a very skilled furniture craftsman. When Jacob's wife found out that she was pregnant with her first child, Jacob, being a very arrogant man, automatically assumed that their child would be a boy. He ordered Hosea to build him a set of drawers that he would place in his child's room. It was this piece of furniture that brought about poor Hosea's death. Hosea built a stunning set of drawers for the newborn's room. He showed them to Jacob, who disliked them on first sight. Jacob, for whatever reason, flew into a rage and beat poor Hosea so severely that he passed away a few days later. All the other slaves in the plantation were extremely angry over the injustice of Hosea's murder, but felt powerless to do anything about it. That was until a slave on the plantation revealed that he was a conjure man. This slave remembered and practiced the ways of his people from far across the sea. At the conjureman's cabin one night, whilst Jacob Cooley slept, some slaves gathered. Somehow they had managed to get possession of the chest of drawers, although how they did this seems to have been lost to history. That night they placed a curse of death on the chest for all future generations of Jacob Cooley's family. One drawer was sprinkled full of dried owl's blood, and a conjure chant was sung. Maybe he did feel some guilt because Jacob did put the chest of drawers into his child's bedroom, but myself personally, I think it was more so that it didn't go to waste. I would love to tell you all that the first victim to fall foul of the death curse was Jacob Cooley, but I'm sorry to say it wasn't. It was Jacob's firstborn baby boy. It was in days of his birth. The baby was only the first to die from the death curse. Jacob's second son also fell victim to the curse. He was stabbed to death when he was young by his personal servant. Cooley's third son, John, then inherited the chest, and his wife, knowing the tragedy that surrounded the family because of the chest, hid it away in the attic. After some time, she gave the chest to Jacob Cooley's youngest daughter, Melinda. She gave it to her as a housewarming gift. Melinda had eloped to marry Sean. He was said to be a charming but lazy man. Melinda had many children, but she had to raise them by herself after Sean ran off to live in New Orleans. Poor Melinda then fell foul to the curse. They say she died of worry and overwork all before she was 40. Now, maybe karma had a little helping hand in this part of the tale. Shortly after Melinda died, the Cooley family received word that Melinda's husband, Sean, had also died in an accident in New Orleans. He was hit in the head by a gangplank from a steamer as he walked by. John and his wife Ellie adopted one of Melinda's children called Evelyn. She was married at 17, and Ellie gave Evelyn the conjure chest. Maybe she was hoping all the deaths had been some kind of coincidence. Evelyn and her husband adopted a young orphan themselves, a girl named Arabella. Evelyn stored Arabella's wedding dress in the chest. Within months, Arabella's husband and only child died within weeks of each other. Evelyn had a daughter-in-law called Esther. She also stored her wedding dress in the chest, and shortly thereafter died at the hands of the curse. An aunt from the family knitted a scarf and gloves for her son's Christmas present one year, and with Evelyn's permission stored the gifts in the chest. The boy was killed shortly thereafter when he fell from a train trestle. The list of tragedies continues. Evelyn's biological daughter was deserted by her husband after she had sorted through some clothes in the chest. Another of Evelyn's younger children was left disabled after a strange accident. They had also had their clothes stored in the chest. At this point, Poor Evelyn had reached her breaking point. It seems she never made the connection, or she didn't believe the chest was cursed. Sadly, she took her own life. She was the 11th victim of the chest. Eventually the chest made its way into the hands of Evelyn's grandchild, Virginia Carey Houston. She didn't believe in the curse at all. Well, that was until her firstborn child died after storing its blanket in the chest. After more tragedies and deaths, the total of victims of the cursed chest had reached 16. This is when Virginia decided they needed help. She turned to a friend of the family called Annie, and as luck would have it, Annie revealed that she was a Conjure woman and told Virginia she could help. What Virginia needed to do was have someone give her a dead owl without being asked for. She also had to boil the leaves from a willow tree from dawn till dusk, with the owl sitting next to it. Then, after the leaves had boiled all day, the liquid from the leaves had to be poured into a jug and buried under a flowering bush with the handle facing east. They managed to get everything together and they performed the ritual. Virginia then asked Annie how they would know if the curse had been lifted. Annie said they would know if one of them died shortly afterwards. I'm not being funny, but I would have wanted to know this information up front. I don't know about you. Anyway, that September, Annie died. She is counted as the 17th victim of the curse, and the last, as far as anyone knows. Virginia's daughter was the last private owner of the chest. She never used it. It stayed hidden in her attic for a very long time before she gave it to the Kentucky History Museum in Frankfort in 1976. So then, what do you all think? Do you think the curse was real? Or do you think it's a good story that's evolved over time? I have to be honest, I'm going to go with story. I think we have to remember the era in which this first all started. There was no health and safety to prevent accidents. The medicines that were around at the time weren't great. I think over time, through generations passing down, everybody's added a bit to it. And all of a sudden we have a cursed chest and a Conjure man. I have to say though, I really did enjoy it. And who knows, I could be wrong. The chest really could be cursed. Thanks for watching. I'll have another video out soon. Bye.